Yeah, good afternoon to all. I feel happy to welcome you back to the afternoon session. Before we start the session, I'd like to convey my appreciation and thanks for your active participation. We expect the same in the forthcoming days also. Thank you, participants. Now, I take up the privilege to welcome our resource person, Dr. A. Shivashankar, Principal, Sri Venkateshwara College of Education, Karaikal, Puducherry. Sir is going to handle the session on the topic curriculum studies. Really, it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Welcome, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon,
Before I'll hand over the session to sir, I'd like to invite Mr. Praveen, Assistant Professor of our college, to introduce Dr. A. Sivashankar, sir. Sir, our principal is online to welcome you. Just 1 minute, sir.
Fine.
Yeah.
So welcome, sir.
Very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm fine, sir.
Fine.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Continue, sir.
I want to brief about Dr. A. Sivashankar's profile, his educational qualification, Masters in Chemistry, M.Ed, M.Phil in Education, and PhD in Education. His professional experience. He had begun his career as a lecturer at PGP, Education and Welfare Society, from the year 2005 to 2006, and assistant professor in the School of Education at Sastra University from the year 2006 to 2016, and now serves as a principal at Sri Venkateshwara College of Education, Delhi from the year 2016 to date. He has decades of rich experience in all formats of teacher education that encompasses B.Ed, M.Ed, 5-year integrated MSc, MA, B.Ed through distance learning. He has published 2 books on blended learning and animation, the new age chalk of teachers, and published many chapters for educational books, and published many papers in national and international journals. He had been awarded Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Book Award by Ministry of Youth and Resource Development in the year 1989.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen, sir. Sir, now the session is handed over to you.
Okay, thank you, madam.
Thanks.
So, very good afternoon to all. In fact, I take this opportunity to profusely thank the management of Kasturi College of Education, especially the chairman, correspondent, and as well as the management trustee, who have been really having the lot of support to the academic team, which is very well ably led by Dr. Radhakrishnan along with Vinod Kumar and other fraternity colleagues. Because there is one punchline that there is no lockdown for studies. So I'm very sure that Kasturi College of Education is just having a very long line of series of online activities to enable this academic acumen. I salute them for their thirst of knowledge and disseminating the required knowledge to the academic fraternity. And we all know well that NET has become the essential component. In that way, they have planned this as a helpline for the M.Ed scholars as well as for the people who are aspiring to take up NET. So with that, we can just move on to our session. So now we are in a post-lunch session. So post-lunch session has got its own limitation that we can very well see with the number of head counts that they are attending the post-lunch session and pre-lunch session also. So whenever post-lunch session is given to a resource person, we must say that that particular organizer must have some in-depth belief over that particular resource person. We all know well post-lunch session is otherwise called. So prandum is a Latin word which means full stomach. So after having lunch, if not full stomach, at least to the off stomach or even to the amount of some 3/4, that is just going to cause the postprandial syndrome. So while we are just pushing as much as of stuff into our stomach, so it is having full stuff. Naturally, when our stomach is full, it is just giving a sign to the brain that I am full, I need to work a lot, please supply more blood to me to make the churning process and to ensure the digestion process. So in that way, brain is supplying more of blood to stomach Instead, brain is just keeping some vacuum for it. So it results that our brain is in probably in a low gear in a post-lunch session, and stomach is just doing its full duty. So to gain your attention in this session, I request you to give your fullest participation to pay some attention and learn something. So this is the illustration that even a very dynamic lion is just sleeping over the tree after his heavy lunch. So this is the very virtue of this post-lunch session. With that, we will like enter to this curriculum session. So as far as my experience with NET, in my humble opinion, so fortunately I could clear NET education as well as NET psyche. Prior to that, among some 21 years ago, I first cleared SLET in education. But to all these tests, while I cleared, to be frank with you, I didn't do much of great things. I just gone through the textbook which were just recommended for the course. If it is education, the whatever the textbooks that are recommended, or I will just suggest the distance education material written in sometime earlier would be of greater help to you. So if it is education, you better collect MEd distance education material from Madras University or Annamalai University. Such material would be of great help. And if you are going for a guide, most of the guides are not comprehensive, but one publisher by name Upkar has got some good series of publication in that. So I would like to suggest either you follow some simple textbooks and as well as some simple guide, and you do not just break your head much over it. You can very easily clear NET if you have a meticulous study, proper underlining of text, and as well as you have to make some in-text references what you just internalize, and all that will be of great help to you. Otherwise, passing NET is not a very big magic. You can very well just do. With that, we will just move on to this topic, curriculum studies, which is an essential thing. And not only as a NET aspirant, as a teacher, we must have some fair idea about curriculum. First, let us peep into this etymology. Etymology means origin of word, how the word curriculum would have emerged. Now we call it as it's a path. The word curriculum implies a meaning, a path, probably a passage with which we can just go about. It would have been just derived from classical Latin, which is meaning running or course. That means something like a race course. A race course is a path in which a runner is just going to run. Likewise, an academician is just going to run in a race course. That's what we call it as curriculum. The academician may either be a student or a teacher. They must have a specified path in which they can just run. So it must have emerged from the Latin career, with which we are just having the word corridor, currency, and all that. In New Latin, now we call it the same word career as a course of study. That is how now we call it as career development. So in all that, so we now clear that curriculum means a path. Curriculum means a race course. Curriculum means a course of study. But we may just tell that whatever being taught in the school or an education institution as a curriculum, these are all the different interpretations that we may make, but etymologically it is so. So we may just have a definition for curriculum as follows. So a learner can have a learning experience. The learning experience must be a total experience. So that is why we call it as the totality of experience a learner can get from lectures, laboratory, library, playground, and through innumerable formal and informal contacts that he or she had with the teacher or the elders. So one thing we must be clear. Curriculum is totality of experience. The totality of experience may come from formal channel as well as from informal channel. That is how the design of the curriculum is just implied. So it is a totality of experience which ensures knowledge development, attitude development, as well as skill development, that all can be occurred through either through lectures, the curricular part, or as well as the laboratory with which we may develop some skill part, the library which is just going to enhance again the cognitive part, playground which is just going to ensure the emotional balance, and all that we call it as the totality of experience one can get. This is from learner's perspective. At the same time, we cannot just keep the curriculum away from the society. In societal perspective, curriculum has got a different meaning. That is, curriculum is a comprehensive plan for an educational or training or course to offer new or improved manpower to fulfill the rising needs of a dynamic society. So this is the point of view from society. Society is dynamic, it is just fast changing. It needs some contributions from the members of the society, thereby the society can be still further dynamic and it can just evolve in a better fashion, for which they need new persons or improved persons. We cannot just send out the persons from the society, so we would like to just develop them with better stuff. For that, we are having a plan of action. We call it as curriculum. So it's very simple. In learner's perspective, it is totality of experience. In societal perspective, it must be dynamic, so that we must have new or improved manpower. So this is what we call it as curriculum, right? Now we must have some understanding about syllabus and curriculum. So syllabi is the word for plural. So if you are having a syllabus in our hand for a paper, it will be having few objectives. That objectives may be short-term objectives or long-term objectives. That is different. Whereas a curriculum is one which is having a perspective, what we call it as goals. Because many countries, the curriculum planners are just having a goal. They are having a goal to develop a new manpower. They are having a goal to develop a new emerging field for which they are having a goal. Those goals are just fragmented into aims. The aims are further divided into objectives. These objectives are only we are having in a syllabus. These objectives may be long-term objectives or short-term objectives, what we call it as general instructional or specific instructional or precise instructional objectives. So a syllabi or syllabus is having a smaller perspective for a short-term plan, whereas a curriculum is a long one, which is a comprehensive one and almost which ensures overall development. This curriculum involves objectives, at the same time methods, content, evaluation method, and whatever the suggestions for improvement that also be included. So curriculum is always dynamic and ever changing, and there is nothing called a curriculum has attained perfection. It will be kept on changing. So this is the basic difference between curriculum and syllabi. Now let us move on to the important aspect called types of curriculum. So we know well that curriculum is a totality of experience. Our curriculum is a plan of action which will give new or improved manpower to the society. So it must be dynamic. This particular curriculum has got few types. Let us see what are the types. It's only a small list, nothing like that. We are having endless list of types of curriculum. Fine. First, let's see what is overt, explicit, or written curriculum. Overt means something outward, or the other word very easily just describes explicit. So which is seen outside, which is well known just seeing outside, that is what we call it as the overt curriculum or explicit curriculum or written curriculum. So most of our books, most of the educational input that is given apart from books, the workbooks, the CDs, the electronic media, or any other stuff that is related to our curriculum, that what we call it as overt curriculum or written curriculum. So any of the instructional input, books, e-books, CDs, or any other websites, any other URL related to that thing, altogether we call it as overt curriculum or explicit curriculum or written curriculum. So this is one type. Almost most of our education process revolves with overt curriculum, right? Almost some 80% we may call it as overt curriculum. Then comes hidden or covert curriculum. Hidden, covert means something happening inside which cannot be seen by others outside. But sir, am I audible? Sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can proceed,
Fine.
sir.
I hear in between some sound. Fine.
No, sir. No, sir. We'll check.
Fine. So a hidden or covert curriculum is one which is mostly ensured by the educational institutions. We know many of the very good institutions which is having a very long tradition, they used to ensure punctuality, they used to ensure high discipline in the classroom during curricular transaction, they ensure good relationship, and as well as the language, the academic language that they are using all must be ensured. The strict discipline will be ensured by only few institutions. So this what we call it as the hidden or covert curriculum. So apart from the overt curriculum, only few institutions could ensure that some value addition of this overt curriculum being ensured by this covert curriculum. So overt curriculum is what the curricular aspect or the book or academic aspect tells. The covert curriculum is one mostly the educational institution by its rich heritage and well as well-mannered teachers are just going to ensure. Right. The third one is societal curriculum. The societal curriculum is one mostly taught by the society. This particular curriculum is mostly informal. So if we have a debate that most of our learners are just what is the percentage that we are learning through formal channel and informal channel, in the sense it just varies, depends upon the country in which we are just making a survey. But large part of our learning is being attributed by informal learning. So the societal curriculum is one. The society is just going to teach the elders in our family, the neighbors of our home, the members present in our street, and any community that we belong to, or the religious places or places of worship like churches, mosques, and temples. These are all just going to teach something. That is what we call it as societal curriculum, which will ensure the overall development of the individuals. Right. Then comes null curriculum. The null curriculum is one which is unattended. Though it has got some curricular presence, sometimes a teacher may leave out some syllabus which he may feel that it is not essential, or due to time factor he or she may not cover in this time so that it can be left. Like that, we might have just studied in our school time that few pages or few units would have been just left by our teachers intentionally, that the priority to other area is more important. So such thing is called null curriculum. And if a teacher is giving a clue that these things you can very well just read on your own, these things that you can very well understand on your things, and sometimes you may give even home assignment. So that part we may just attribute as null curriculum, which is not attended to with the due priority. Then phantom curriculum. Phantom, it is a cartoon character which sometimes would be invisible, and whenever needed it will come and help. So such character is phantom, the ancient superhero before our Superman and all. While we have been school kids, we used to study so many comics in which we will have this phantom, right? So phantom curriculum is one which is not very well visible, but whenever needed it will come and help. So that is what we call it as acculturation. And if you just go through any of our policy document or any of our educational policy, it will be first thing that to preserve, promote, and propagate the cultural heritage of our mother nation. Any education policy will give due priority only to culture, because with culture only we can develop education and all that, and even education is a part of culture too. In that way, phantom curriculum is one which helps the individuals to acquire the culture or the rule of the soil wherever they live, whatever the community in which they will be having specific customs and belief that must be just assimilated. That's what we call it as phantom curriculum. Then comes concomitant curriculum. Concomitant curriculum is one which is fully infused by the family in the closed walls. If our parents are just telling us and just upbringing that while you are having 3-4 idlis, why not you share one idli with your friend who is not having a tiffin at that time? Or if you are having 3-4 biscuits, why you want to just share one? So these are all the curriculum given by family. In some families, probably while we are just going out in the early morning, they will not just leave them alone with empty stomach. They will fill something in the tummy and send. So these are all the things that we may call it as concomitant curriculum. The values just pertain to that particular family being infused on the learners. Then comes a rhetorical curriculum. Rhetorical curriculum is one which mostly being determined by the policy makers, the state or national reports that is suggesting something that may just become a curriculum. Now we are having a very hot topic on national education policy. This policy is infusing something This is what we call it as rhetorical curriculum. And you may just raise a question that everything may be coming under this particular thing. Rhetorical curriculum is one coming under that. Sometimes rhetorical is only a guidelines, but what is being used is more important. Apart from these 7 types of curriculum, we may just have few more fusions too, as curriculum in use. That means we know well that overt curriculum or written curriculum or explicit curriculum is one what is followed in educational institution. At the same time, curriculum in use in the sense what is covered by the teacher in a specific given academic time. Say for example, curriculum in use in the sense the teacher might have completed only 8 units and 9th and 10th unit you would have just covered in a haphazard manner. So the curriculum in use, we may call it as around only 8 units. So this is what we call it as curriculum in use. There is one more thing called received curriculum. Whatever the teacher just cries, whatever the teacher just pushes in the class, but it all depends upon, it is not the quantum of teaching that took place in the classroom, but it is the quantum of learning that took place in the mind of the learner is more important. So in that way, whatever the teacher just shouts at, cries at, but what was received by the learner is more important. So the quantum of reception by the learner is called received curriculum. And there is one thing called internal curriculum. So whatever is received need not be just fully assimilated by the learner. The learner, whomever is interested in whatever topic, that particular thing will be kept in their mind for use in longer course. That's what we call it as internal curriculum. And now one thing emerges as electronic curriculum. So whatever the overt curriculum tells, whatever the societal curriculum tells, that is different. But we rely with more of social media and electronic media like email, web and all that. This definitely is just going to change our knowledge pattern. So we call it as electronic curriculum. Whatever the curriculum tells, the electronic curriculum is one which is just adding further ornaments over our learning. So in this case, these are all the types of curriculum. We must have some fair idea. So I have briefed about some 7, 8 and 3, 4. Altogether, we are having about some 10 curriculum. And there are about some 10 to 20 more curriculum types of there, which are having slight variation with, you can just very well understand while you are making a meaningful analysis, right? Now let's move on to the next important dimension while we are dealing about curriculum. So curriculum must have got some characteristics. What are all those good characteristics, or what are all the good curriculum that possess as characteristic? The character. So earlier it was called as ABC of curriculum. While we are speaking about behaviorism, we call it as ABC of behaviorism. That is antecedent, behavior, and as well as probably what is the change that we are expecting, right? What we call it as consequence. So antecedent, behavior, consequence is ABC of behaviorism. Like that, we are having ABC in a curriculum too. Articulation, balance, and control. These are all the 3 expected with good curriculum. So a good curriculum must be balanced. Balanced in the sense, this curriculum must ensure overall development. That is knowledge development, attitude development, emotional development, skill development, whatever the behavior that we are expecting, all must be ensured. A curriculum, if it focuses more on just knowledge development alone, this knowledge must result as skill unless nothing can be productive so as to ensure the GDP or GNP of any country. So in my humble opinion, any particular learning, it is not my own opinion, even Mahatma Gandhi had also made a point that any particular curriculum result or any particular learning must result in economic development. Unless otherwise economic development is ensured through a learning, that learning cannot be a useful learning for the individual as well as for the society. So in this context, balanced curriculum is one which ensures overall development. This curriculum has got definitely some academic rigor. It is not something like very easy. See, we are now having some meaningful queries by the Anna University about the online examination in which they are conducted. So this particular rigorous curriculum is one which must be demanding something from the learners. There must be some difficulty index. So we are here to ensure that learners are getting marks, learners are getting grade, learners are getting degree, learners are getting job, no doubt. At the same time, learners must get some knowledge and skill also. For that, we must keep the curriculum which is rigorous, demanding, definitely somewhat difficult, not fully difficult. And the curriculum must be coherent. That means it must be having a very clear objective. That particular objective must have some rationale, and this particular objective should be intelligible. Thereby, we call it as this is a coherent one. It must have a cogent flow. And a curriculum must definitely be an integrated curriculum. The curriculum must either be a vertically integrated or horizontally integrated. What do you mean by vertically integrated or horizontally integrated? Normally, in science subjects, while we are studying science, see for example, in class 6 or 7 or 8, if we are studying about measurement devices like vernier caliper and screw gauge, probably after 1 or 2 years only we will be allowed in the laboratory to handle those devices and make a meaningful measurement. While we are studying just theory, we know only this head scale reading, pitch scale reading and all that with the least count. That's what we know. But only while we are going to the laboratory, while we are handling, we will come across what exactly the thing means. So if we are just studying the theory in this year and we are just going to do the practical in next year, we call it as a vertically integrated curriculum. But we are studying the measurement of devices probably this week. The next week itself in the laboratory, we are just handling these devices and just making a meaningful understanding of what we studied. We call it as a horizontally integrated curriculum. Both are having some implications. So depending upon the need of the subject, depending and this particular curriculum must be, and it must be focused. A curriculum must be focused in the sense what for it is intended, it must just go in its line. So it is rightly given as tight fisted. So as we are having a tight fist, what we give a punch, this particular curriculum must be a punch. It will just go in its line very rightly. And it must be relevant, significant. See, sometimes even in our English literature, we might have studied something called a poem, Chimney Sweepers. So it all just describes the life of chimney sweepers. So in most of the Western countries, just to ward away the coldness they feel, they are just having a chimney in the corner of the room. They are just burning so many firewoods, and the chimney is giving the warmth that is needed for the European people. So this particular chimney will have a lot of shoots, and that particular chimney will have full of smoke and carbon. One fine time it will be get clogged and it must be cleaned. So this particular poem is about chimney sweepers. These sweepers are just getting into the chimney and they are cleaning it. So this is what the poem that we study. Though it just gives us an idea about the life of the Western people, it is not having much of relevance to the people who are living, especially in rural area. They may find it a bit different. So in that context, what is being dealt by few may not be felt relevant by others. So this is what the very characteristic of curriculum. So as a teacher, you must just keep in your mind that though it is lacking in few aspects, you must just develop course to bring it. How a better curriculum can be. So curriculum is one which is just going to give the right punch. Human development is just taking place. The development definitely causes some change in knowledge pattern as well as in idea of the individuals. That is just coming to curriculum. And social forces are just making change. That is also influencing curriculum. The nature of learning is changing. Now we are also making a learning which is in a different format, right? So that is also influencing a curriculum. At the same time, nature of knowledge and cognition is also changing. That is also influencing a curriculum. Say, for example, human development. We just wanted to communicate with the people from distance. So obviously our people invented telephone. We just had a nice talk with our friends and relatives. But over a span of time, what happened? People were not of move. They wanted to have the communication with their friends and relatives while they are on move. Then came mobile phones. These mobile phones are making an impact on the curriculum. So that is how now we are having lot of diploma courses, certificate courses on mobile phone servicing. So we are using more of mobile phone that reflects on the curriculum. In turn, curriculum is just giving a new course for the people to develop a certificate course in mobile service, in Android service. Like that, this human development is just influencing curriculum. This human development is just related, proportionally related to social force. That social force is also giving a change in the curriculum. Now we are all using the new normal, that is the online classes used much. This nature of learning is also just giving some influence on the curriculum, and the curriculum expert has to think how better they can just develop a curriculum which could be of so accommodative to these elements. At the same time, now it is a knowledge era where information is bulging, that just very well reflects on this curriculum, right? So this is the basic interrelationship in the elements of curriculum, what we call it as basis of curriculum. At the same time, which determines the curriculum? The determinants of curriculum, I have given two separate lists, almost both are same, but in different terms. In this case, in left side, we may just find that the basic needs. The basic needs of the learners, the basic needs of the majority of the community, that is what basic needs. At the same time, societal needs, cultural factors, individual talents, as well as intellectual, moral, and aesthetic ideals and tradition. All that are just going to count. It has been given in different terms in right side. Needs and capabilities of the learners, needs and aspirations of the society, nature of the subject, infrastructure needed, feasibility and constraint, and as well as the environment that present, the political environment, the economic environment, the societal elements, all are going to determine the curriculum. Let's see one simple example. Needs and capability of the learner. See, for example, Government of India, Ministry of Education is deciding that we must create as much as at least 50,000 nanotechnologists by the year 2005. So by the year 2025, Government of India may decide that we must have at least 50,000 experts in the field of nanotechnology. So they are now setting a goal for which they will be just unfolding a curriculum. The nanotechnologies may be in need of different formats. For example, diploma in nanotechnology, BSc in nanotechnology, BTech in nanotechnology, MTech in nanotechnology. They will just decide the format. As per the need, they will just decide what is the manpower planning, how many MTech we need, how many BTech we need. Accordingly, they will just plan and develop the curriculum. But how the learner would be, it all depends upon the needs and capability of the learners. So once they decide this is the plan they chart out, as per the capabilities of the learner, they will decide where to run the course in the trial basis first. This nanotechnology needs lot of investment and laboratory with full of air condition and as well as sub-zero temperature laboratories, in the sense that is possible only with metros. So needs and capability of the learners, needs and aspiration of the society comes here. The nature of the subject also determines where to put this particular curriculum, and the nature of investment. So all these are needed full of nitrogen lab and all, in the sense we have to ensure that this infrastructure is possible only with these segments. So the curriculum is being determined for that particular area. And political, economic, as well as social elements determine what could be the curriculum. Now we just observe, especially in this political scenario, there is some development we understand. So whatever we just learned in our history and geography seems to be a bit wrong. That is what being observed by the present rulers. That may be true or may not be true or partially true, but this political situation just makes us to have a new normal. So this is also, we call it as the political scenario that determines the curriculum. This is the curriculum process. First, the goals and aims and objectives are just determined by the curriculum planners. Then they are just selecting the learning experience which could rightly match these particular goals or objectives to be realized. This is called selection of learning experience. Once they determine the learning experience, they develop a content. The curricular content is just going to be developed by the planners, right? Now you may raise a question, which is first step, selection of content or selection of learning experience? Because selection of learning experience is an important part of curriculum design. We must decide this particular topic is better fit with lecture. This topic is better fit with laboratory method. This topic with project method. So once we decide, as per the design, we are going for content. Once the content is just written, we are just ensuring that this particular organization, whether in a sandwich pattern or vertical integration or a horizontal integration, we are just going to determine the learning experience and as well as content which is rightly blended so as to ensure a right curricular transaction. Once the transaction is over, it is our duty to know whether the curricular transaction is up to the mark. So we are making a meaningful evaluation. That evaluation itself is needed some review. That evaluation is reviewed and further modifications are just going to be incorporated. So the curriculum process is a cycle which will just kept on rotating, and this particular evaluation is just going to give an insight every time so as to improve again the objectives, improve again the learning experiences, improve again the content, improve again the integration part, and always to improve the evaluation process itself. So in this context, the curriculum process has got these elements. Where the curriculum plays a role, the curriculum influences the society, the curriculum influences the learner, the curriculum influences the subject matter itself, and the curriculum being influenced by learning theory, and in turn curriculum influences learning theory itself to change. So this is what the effects of curriculum, the aspects of curriculum. Then school organization and as well as criteria of construction, that all are going to imply over curriculum, and curriculum in turn is just going to influence these aspects either to modify itself or to come out with new version, right? How it just acts upon, we will see later a bit. Now let us move on to the principles of curriculum construction. While we are constructing a curriculum, we must have few principles in our mind. The first principle is that the principle of child-centeredness. We know well that whether it is objective or it is content or it is learning experience or it is evaluation, all are just going to just give pressure over the learner. So we must ensure as a curriculum expert, this curriculum should not give pressure. In turn, it must give pleasure to the learner. So the child must be kept with highest priority, that the child's interest, child's abilities, child's inclination, all must be taken into account. Based on that only, that curriculum must be designed. So child-centeredness is the first and foremost principle of curriculum construction. Child is important. At the same time, this child is a part of the community. How the child can be better molded to be useful to the community is more important. So keeping in view of this particular community, our curriculum's principle must give due priority to the contribution to the community. Then comes principle of activity centeredness. So learners must be kept busy. In that way, the academic rigor must be kept in right order. The principle of activity centeredness ensures that the learners are having blended activities, a classroom activity, activity with the peers, and activity with teachers, activity with laboratory, activity in playground, and all that we call it as activity centeredness. The activity must be revolving around curricular and its enforcement. Principle of variety, right? So if we are just having activities in tandem, automatically variety would be ensured. Then principle of coordination and integration. So this particular curriculum must always have a due integration of these activities in a right order so as to ensure the smooth curriculum transaction. This integration must be probably in between curriculum, in between subject domain, and in between topics. Thereby, this particular interdisciplinary approach would be of greater help while we are just constructing a curriculum. And we all know well that any particular educational plan that would revolve first priority with culture. In that way, principle of conservation relies with cultural preservation, cultural conservation, cultural promotion, and cultural propagation. So while we are planning a curriculum, we must give due priority to conserve our culture. In no point we must just think of anything that could distract the fragment of our culture. Though we are just going or inclining towards Western culture, this Western culture can need not be necessarily be replaced our Eastern culture. So that we must keep in our mind while we are planning a curriculum. Then principle of creativity. The curriculum that we are planning, the activities which we are planning must rightly underline the creativity, and it must rightly siphon off the creativity present in the individual learner. Thereby definitely they can contribute something to the bulging domain of knowledge. Principle of forward looking. Today we may just educate the student. It doesn't mean that he is being educated only for today. He must lead his life tomorrow, next decade, and it must be sometimes even next millennium if it is the end of the millennium. So all that we have to keep in mind. So our curriculum must have forward looking principle. What could happen after 10 years? How can they lead their life after 20 years? These things must be kept in our mind while we are just planning our curriculum. We must definitely make an underline here. In 1986, when we had a new education policy, duly designed by the erstwhile Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, he had a friend from software industry, Sam Petroda, who had an insight that by we had a lot of computer education in our curriculum. Now we are having the benefits of that fruits. That Sam Petroda, even then later part, he led the commission, the Knowledge Commission, which also foreseen the importance of electronic growth in our nation. So in that way, we must give due importance to forward looking. Then principle of flexibility. Any particular curriculum need not be hard or rigid. It must definitely ensure some flexible elements. That means from probably most of the Keller plan, Winnetka plan, there are some plans which are just ensuring learner development. So those plans are giving only such flexibility. There is no hard and fast rule that they have to start only with first unit, second unit, or third unit. Each unit is probably a separate entity where we can start with and end with. So learners must have that flexibility, or the teachers must have the flexibility to start or end with as per the preference of the learners. Then principle of balance. No doubt, it must have the balance of all the aspects of human development as well as societal development. And it must ensure the balance between idealism and naturalism. It must ensure the balance between individuality and commonality. And all that had been ensured by this curriculum. It is a balanced curriculum. And at most, it must have the utility to the individuals and as well as learner. Here comes the principle of pragmatism, right? So whatever the curriculum that we are designing, that must ensure probably a better utility to the individuals, to the community, and as well as to the nation is more important. So far we have seen the aspects, bases, and principles of curriculum. This shows the interrelationship between the curriculum and other important aspects. That is what we call it as consideration for curriculum development. While we are developing a curriculum, what are the areas that we must keep in our mind? First thing, the nature of discipline, the subject that we are dealing with, that must be kept in mind, and its interrelationship with curriculum as well as with social context and development. Then social consideration, how far it is going to be useful to the society. Say for example, people are talking much about artificial intelligence, right? So in most of the Western countries, there is a boom for artificial intelligence. machine learning, deep learning, and very many aspects they are just talking about, whether it is IoT or like that. But this particular thing, the social consideration definitely would influence curriculum, and curriculum in turn would influence social consideration. The teacher related factors. One fine example we are having. See, the NEET examination has just given us new insights. Our state government revised the syllabus on par with NCERT syllabus, fine. And even in some areas, the curricular load is even more than NCERT, we must appreciate. But the teachers must be given due orientation to this particular syllabus teaching. That in some schools, in most of the cases, the teachers themselves just declared that they lack teaching. There is training with that new syllabus. So whenever we are going for a new curriculum, all the more important thing that must do is giving due training to the teachers with the new curriculum. Curriculum is just going to have institutional consideration. See, if we are just going to come with robotics in our +1, +2 itself, few schools which are having enough fund may easily accommodate the infrastructure, but few institutions may not be in a position to accommodate robotics. So like that, any particular development is having a straight relationship with this all aspect, and this curriculum is just going to mutually influence this environment also. So this environment, that means economic environment and as well as technical environment, all are just going to influence the curriculum. And as well as development, in the name of development, we are influencing the curriculum. The curriculum is just influencing our way of development. These all are interdependent, interrelated, and we cannot just ignore any aspect while we are just planning a curriculum. So as a curriculum expert, it is essential that we take all into consideration and develop a curriculum which must ensure a long-lasting and sustainable development to the community. While we are just addressing about social forces, how the social forces are just influencing our curriculum design. First, government. The government is having a policy. That policy may be in just writings, or policy may be in practice. Any government, if it is everything black and white, fine. Sometimes there may be some hidden agenda at that time that may just influence a curriculum, right? Then quasi-legal, few aspects which are legal, at the same time it is dependent. In that aspect, this particular quasi-government, quasi-social and quasi-legal organizations are just going to influence again the curriculum. We know what are all the elements. That elements may be either legal or something which is related to social or religious aspects, which would definitely have some implication. Some professional organizations. See, for example, in terms of school curriculum, NCERT is the apex body, but while they are just influencing some experts into that, their individual whims and fancy is just going to reflect in the curricular development. Likewise, there are some social groups in the community which will have larger influence. So now we are having a government which is run by a political party. Probably that political party and its ideology will definitely reflect in our curriculum. That political party might have some underpinnings. That particular political party itself may be promoted by some other elements. So those parties would have definitely some sort of influence over the curriculum, which may be a bit hidden, but definitely it is having influence, right? So normally in any curriculum development or curriculum improvement process, so these are all the stages that we have to cross. First, we have to plan whether a curriculum development is needed or it's the need of the hour that we must go for development. First, we are planning. Then we are preparing that what sort of development that we must have. And this particular curriculum development project must have this much vision, that is for about some 5 years or a decade or even for 2 decades, whether you are having a long-term or short-term vision. Then we are designing. That curriculum design is based on the philosophy of that particular country and as well as the pedagogy that we are going to follow, the psychology, the learner's influence, and the financial aspect that we are planning altogether is just going to influence the design. Once we design, we are just developing the curriculum. The curriculum development first starts with content development, learning experience development, and as well as other media and material development and evaluation process, all that accounts developing. Once we develop, we implement it. While we are implementing, we are having some teething trouble. So those troubles are registered, recorded, and immensely this particular thing is being evaluated with the charted queries. With that, we are just thinking to revise. What are the elements must be corrected? What are the aspects to be revised? Once revised, we are having a improvised curriculum. This improvised curriculum is just implemented with a longer vision of 5 years or 10 years. But whatever the need that comes in between, they must be addressed immediately too. So these are all the stages of curriculum development. So once we develop a curriculum, what are all the refined parameters that we must possess with this content, process, learning environment, and product? Coming to content, the learning content must have the abstractness. No doubt we are all just going towards concreteness, but this abstraction means concrete to abstract is different, in which we ensure a clear, unbiased, and precise information. That is what we call it as content. It must be in simple language. The content must have simplicity with not big of jargons. It must have very simple language for the learners to understand on their own. It must have extracurricular topics. See, for example, while we are developing content, it is always better that we give some extracurricular topics. Thereby, the learners will keep in their mind for longer time. So while we were in our schoolhood, probably in a matter of about some 6th standard or 7th standard, I had one teacher by name, Mr. Danislas, a very inspiring science teacher. He just discussed about radiation in the class. He asked the question, who invented radiation? So we, with a lot of enthusiasm, we jumped in and answered that Madame Curie invented radiation. He said immediately no. Madame Curie invented only radium, whereas radioactivity was invented by Henry Becquerel. This is not related to our curriculum, but he provided some more information. Did you know that how did he invent this particular radiation? Henry Becquerel? He raised the question. Then he told us a simple story. Henry Becquerel had a small wooden table in which he had some materials. Those materials, along with that, he had photographic plates. Now we are having digital camera, digicam. Most of my youngsters may not be aware of the film roll that we had in our college. Probably while we studied in our college, we had only film rolls which must be loaded in a camera in a dark room. We will just expose and we will go to a laboratory to develop it. Then we take print out and all that now a past story. But in his times, Henry Becquerel had photographic plates. He had not even the film rolls. He had only photographic plate. That means this particular film will be covered with the 2 paper sheet. Individual films only be available. Every time it must be loaded and exposed and developed. So he had such few films in the drawer, table drawer, that got some spottings. So he just wondered how it got spottings. So while he was just making a meaningful query with the material available in the drawer, he come to know that he had a prayer stuff. That prayer stuff, what we call it as the prayer garland, that is having some inflorescent material which is causing something over the photographic plate. So he just came to a concept called radioactivity, off-life, and all that. So what he just taught to us in the matter of about some 6th standard, we still just remember. So extracurricular topics are essential for the content to be so interesting. It is not essential that only these curriculum experts must give. As a teacher, we are having liberty to infuse such extracurricular topics to our learners to make our teaching more interesting. Right. The content must also contain lives and living. So some happenings, and the content must organize some values also to the learners. I will just tell one thing. What is that we are just going to talk about value? See, in the theory of evolution, You must have heard Parinama Valarchi Kolgai, right? The theory of evolution, we immediately will give credit to Charles Darwin, right? Charles Darwin was so popular and he was just unfolding his theory. At that time, a pro-runner, Wallace, was also a pro-runner in the evolution theory who developed the same theory but who could not just unfold and become popular. He once met Charles Darwin and shown all these notes about this evolution theory that he just wrote. Immediately, Charles Darwin hugged him and accepted his theory, and not only that, in a public stage, he declared that Charles Darwin declared that Wallace must also be given equal credit for the invention that he made on evolution. This is what we call it as learning values. While we are just teaching such stories to our learners, even in an informal way, this particular thing will definitely give a value to the learners. That way they will become real heroes in lifetime. Coming to process, while we are just planning a curriculum, it must give due priority to induce higher order thinking among the learners. And we must as much as possible try to translate the curriculum through inquiry. We must give ample chances for the learners to make a meaningful inquiry about the topic that we are dealing with. And they must have some chances for individual pursuit. That is, learners must have chance to pursue something on their own, and learning must take place on inquiry, right? Not just simply random blah blah blah. At the same time, this particular learning experience must give some chances, that is, open-ended chances for the learners. The learner may go this way or that way. That there could be some possibilities for the learners. Then flexible pacing. Learners can learn on their own the topic they want, anywhere, anytime. Pacing must be there in the process. That is mostly possible now with this kind of electronic media, or as well as what we call it as internet enabled learnings. The process must give chances for the learners to reflect. At the same time, there must be some variety. So these are all the aspects the curriculum development must ensure after the development is over. Okay. Coming to this learning environment, what sort of things a good curriculum must ensure? It must be flexible. It must ensure high degree of mobility, that it should not be just stringent and just being static. It must ensure definitely some sort of mobility. Mobility in the sense, it need not necessarily stick with one particular method of presentation. It must be with others too. It must be independent. See, many times we are all becoming this particular technological savvy and technological dependent. Instead, it's better that we are having probably independent methods, and it must be learner centered, open, and as well as flexible. The overall curriculum development, what we call it as, that is called the product. That particular product must have the mechanism for feedback and evaluation, some transformation, and if at all any need for variety, that all must be ensured. So after a curriculum development, these are all the things that you are expected. What sort of question that you may expect in NET from this? So you may just expect about the characteristic of good curriculum, types of curriculum, or they may just state one question. A curriculum that focuses more on development of books on a particular subject may be called as. Then chances may be given. You have to identify that as probably overt curriculum or written curriculum or explicit curriculum. In that way. Likewise, a multiple answer question may be given in the way that what are the characteristics you feel a good content must possess after curriculum development. So you must be in a position to just recall abstractness, simplicity, lives and living, like that. So in every particular topic that we are dealing, you are having plenty of questions where you have to just meticulously go through and make an underline, and where you have to think reversely so as to derive questions from what you are just going about, what we call it as a reflection. So any particular learning, if it is having a right sort of reflection, definitely would give you a lot of questions that you can just answer on your own. Curriculum development normally takes in 3 phases. First, instructional development. We are just deciding over what sort of things that you are going to carry out. Media and material development, that's what we call it as content development. The content, curricular content must be developed. It may be through books or workbooks or CD-ROMs or any other web pages that we have to develop. For that we can give link URL and all that. we just bring under category called media and material development. Then we are giving methods. With what method this particular thing must be unfold. We are just developing material, keeping in mind that what is the method that we are going to adopt based on only that we have developed the content. Now we are just adopting the method and we are testing whether it is right or not. If needed, we are going for correction in instruction, in media, and in teaching methodology also. If needed, evaluation process also. So these are all the normal curricular phases that we are just following while we are making a development. Very important aspect is this approaches of curriculum design or approaches to curriculum or approaches to curriculum development. This is full of philosophy. So this curriculum development, this curricular design is just based on philosophies. Education philosophies we all might have studied: idealism, naturalism, pragmatism, Vermonism we might have studied. We will just see some basics of these few philosophies. So idealism, we know where ideals are more important than objects. Idealism is giving importance to values, ideals, morals. So we call it as idealism. So this particular idealism is a philosophy of any particular curricular project or nation. Ultimately, it is just going to have such activities in the curricular content where these values are going to be infused on the learners more than objects. So as per idealism, ideas are more important than objects. So values like love, affection, and very eternal Indian values like prema, karma, dharma, all are just going to be influenced in the curriculum. Then comes naturalism. So this naturalism, materialism, realism are cousins. They feel that objects are more important than ideas. For them, what is the physical world is more important than the spiritual world. So if the approach of this particular naturalism is just going to dominate the curricular design, probably we know well that this particular thing is just going to have the predominance. Thereby scientific aspects and whatever is given with proof is only going to have place in this naturalistic design. Essentialism is one which is having due balance for idealism and as well as realism. So it gives more chances for the learners to pursue both values as well as objects. Pragmatism is one which is giving due priority, which is good for the society, which is good for the individual, which is useful for the society. Values or objects or whatever the thing, if it is not useful to the society, there is no place in pragmatism. So in a curricular design with the pragmatism, the activities must result only with curricular use. We can rightly read that this pragmatism is a principle of probably the people, the big brother Americans. Let us just have one small thought. We all know the movie Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park, in the sense Jurassic is a time period where we had a lot of very big reptiles, that is dinosaurs. The time period is known as Jurassic. A park which hosts all these wild animals is Jurassic Park. Very good, good idea. This is basically genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is one where a researcher could just find a frozen egg of a dinosaur. A frozen egg of dinosaur which is having probably most of dead protoplast. With that, he is just engineering. This particular genetic coding is taken, which is hybridized with the mosquito, and now they are developing the new race of dinosaur. Try nice thing. This is full of science. We may just see and enjoy. This is what we call it as naturalism. Whereas American ideology is pragmatism. Now they are developing a Jurassic Park for people to visit, people to see, admire and enjoy, for which they will be collected money. So see their idea. Science is good. And as well as this genetic engineering is fine. But the genetic engineering must give money to the inventor, money to the society. That is what the idea of pragmatism, right? Then comes existentialism. Existentialism, leave it to the individual's choice. The problems are, the curriculum is given to the individuals. The individual's opinion and ideas are given more priority. So it is having open-ended option for the learners to just develop their own idea. Constructivism is a philosophy where the learners are considered to be self-developing individuals. A self-developing animal is the child or learner. So they are giving ample chances to construct their own knowledge. Reconstructivism gives priority to reflection and developing creativity. So these are all the approaches a curriculum design must possess. It all depends upon the country's philosophy. It all depends upon the political force that is in time. That all depends upon the philosophy at work that determines the curriculum design one particular expert is just going to put about. These are all the bases of curriculum. That curriculum is based on the philosophical approach. It is going to very big influence. At the same time, one more approach is there. That approach we call it as probably the approach based on learning theories. So early and probably comfortably we have just crossed the halfway mark to this session, I think.
Participants, you can interact with us now.
Okay, again, just recollect what is integrated curriculum and what is constructivism. You just recollect, we can just move out. Thank you. So for curriculum design, we have just seen few aspects based on the philosophies. At the same time, we must see something about the learning theories. The curricular learning theories are these models can have got these four major groups. This information processing design, or social interaction design, or personal development design, or behavior modification design, for which we are giving priority is just going to count. This information processing, madam, do you have this thing? Please move this like this in your slide.
Sir.
There is one small text box appears.
Yeah, I'll check it.
Fine, madam. So information processing models may be as per the theory given by these people. Inductive thinking model, concept attainment model, scientific inquiry model, inquiry training model, mnemonics model, synaptics model, advanced organizer model. It may be attributed like this, right? This inductive thinking model is one which was propounded by a school teacher by name Hilda Thaba. Hilda Thaba was a very young and energetic teacher, school teacher, who just entered the teaching profession at the age of 18. And at the age of 21, she could propound the theory inductive thinking. So feels that whatever the teaching, it is not purposeful if the teacher teaches. It is better that we are giving right chances for the learners to learn on their own. So inductive thinking is one, the learners are given an environment in which they must think on their own and they must construct the bit of knowledge what is expected them to do. In due course, the concept attainment model comes. The concept attainment model is the American ideology by Jerome Bruner. He feels that in inductive thinking, there is a possibility that the learners may just go to the wrong direction also by their improper inference. So it is always better that the teacher just guides or teacher just makes some suitable changes in the learning path of the learners. So there comes the concept attainment model. As per this particular model, the learners must be provided with the positive exemplars and negative exemplars. are the positive examples and negative examples. The learner must decide the relationship between the positive examples, and they must just decide the probably uncommon phenomena between the negative examples. With that, they must find out the relationship between all, and the concept must be attained by the learners. We call it as concept attainment model. So you just think of, if you are just going to follow the information processing design, we must have more of our curriculum having the episodes of either inductive thinking or concept attainment. Our curriculum must have right influence of these aspects while we are developing this particular curriculum, right? Scientific inquiry is a model. The learner must be kept in the seat of an researcher. Thereby, the learner must be given ample chances for them to inquire with the topic. Inquiry training is a model in which a confronting situation is given to the learner. The learners are just asked to raise questions, and the teacher must give only answer with a yes or no. Thereby, the learners are going to construct their own knowledge. Mnemonic is a model which helps the learners to keep lengthy, long information in a serial order which is personally meaningful to them. So in this mnemonic, this Kasturi College principal, Dr. Radhakrishnan himself is an expert, I must say. While I was with the NGP college in a session, he just demonstrated how we can just recollect the prime ministers of free India, right from Jawaharlal Nehru to Mr. Narendra Modi. For that, he developed a story and everyone could recollect it immediately. Sir, are you lying? Are you hearing me?
Sir, wait a minute, sir.
Wait
a minute, sir.
Fine, no problem. If he is busy, no problem.
No, sir.
No problem. So the method that he followed is mnemonics. Mnemonic means mindful. The mindfulness, that is the length. See, for example, I would like to recollect 51 states of United States of America in a sequential order. For that, I have to write all that in an order. I must develop a story with which I can just recall all in a specific order. This is what we call it as mnemonics. So if I am going to have as much of elements in a curriculum, I must plan that way. Then Cynetics is a model which is used to develop creativity among the learners. Whether it is literature or science, creativity is having an excellent place to dominate. So we must have that in our mind while we are developing a curriculum with the due influence to this particular creativity. Advanced organizer is a model which is having due role for the teachers as well as for the learners. So teacher activities in sequence, the learner activities in sequence, the teacher is just organizing such learning experience in advance. That is what we call it as advanced organizer. So all these information processing models are being helpful while we are designing a curriculum. We must just keep in mind. Then social interaction curriculum. So our particular curriculum design is going to give more importance to social interaction, like group behavior, project work, where caring and sharing responsibility and caring and sharing of knowledge is more important. Understanding the problem of others by playing roles. Jurisprudential, what are all the societal norms that we have to follow. So these things, while we are just planning, the social interaction model must be kept in our mind while we are designing a curriculum. Apart from social interaction and information processing, we are having a group of model, what we call it as personal development model. One must develop on their own irrespective of the competitive environment, irrespective of the apathic environment. So these two, you know well, non-directive teaching and enhancing self-esteem. Non-directive teaching was developed by Carl Rogers and enhancing self-esteem was developed by Abraham Maslow. Both are Black Americans. They know what are all the humiliation that they faced because of the race, and they are given due importance that one must come in our life with self-esteem. That is Abraham Maslow. Non-directive teaching is one in which the learner must be given chances and they must decide the course of action. The teacher must only be a counselor. So these two are the models which will just ensure self-development or personal development. If we are just adopting this model, all our curricular element must focus in that way. This Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow, and Malcolm are the three Americans who developed the theory called humanism, that humanism is giving importance to free will. So all these are having interrelationship. Curriculum is a very vast area. We must give due priority and national consideration, societal consideration, and individual's growth all must be taken into account while we are designing it. Behavior modification is the last group of model, the curriculum design that we are just going to ensure. Behavior modification mostly give priority to self-learning. So this self-learning is essential because most of the experts, most of the scientists, most of the eminent personalities, they must have just become to such stature only because of self-learning. Teachers will push up to some extent. Then after that, the individual must have self-interest to learn new things, reflect, and provide new insight. So mastery learning was the idea of Benjamin Bloom, and direct instruction, Tom Good, and simulation is the process where the learners are given chances to learn on the one in the simulated environment. So while we were in our schools, in biology class, zoology class, we must have dissected live cockroach and frog. Now, these animal lovers are not giving such chances for our school children. Now we are having simulated frog and simulated cockroach. A software package is available where the individuals can make a dissection of these particular animals to learn things. So simulation is a thing, a model. We must just plan while we are designing a curriculum. And if you take this driving license, nowadays driving license are given with simulation classes. In simulation where we just really just ensure what is the outside environment available. Many of the clinical trials, while we are running clinical trials with new medicines, the simulated packages are used in software to nearly ensure the right perfect ambience present in the live being, right? Then social learning is a model given by Albert Bandura. That model clearly states that we are taught by our social environment and we just run behind the environment in which we are interested. Program learning is a model suggested by B.F. Skinner and Crowder, linear programming and as well as branch programming. So these are all the self-learning packages. If we are having more of influence for this particular elements in our curriculum, we must give due priority to this. So we have seen two things: approaches to curriculum based on philosophies and approaches to curriculum based on learning theories. These are all very, very essential while we are preparing for this NET examination. So here is a very simple model, how a curricular designing model. You must know the basic difference between curricular models for curriculum design and curricular model for curriculum evaluation. These two you should not mix up and confuse. This is a common model. That means the society is influencing, subject matter is influencing, learner is influencing. Altogether we create these sources. The sources means the learning resources. These are just going to generate tentative objectives. These tentative objectives are further going to be refined by our educational philosophy and psychopedagogy, what you call it as psychology. And with that, we are just going to develop precise educational objectives. From the precise educational objectives, we are selecting the learning experiences. What sort of teacher activity, what sort of learner activity must be there in the teaching learning process is ensured. And that particular thing is going to be evaluated, and the revisions are again going to be implemented to change the curricular model. So this is the very basic of curriculum development model. Now, how to arrange the curricular content? Now we have developed some curricular content, how to arrange it in a book or in a CD or in any other electronic media. So these are all the methods normally adopted by curriculum experts. One is the logical method. Logical method is otherwise called simple to complex method. While we are arranging some subject matter in science, say for example, if it is cell is the simple thing. So we must start with cell, then we may go for tissue, then we may go for fibers, tissue fibers or tissue bundles, then we can go for organs, then we can go for systems. This is what we call it as logical arrangement. The logical arrangement is from simple to complex, right? But The psychological arrangement is there, which is bit contradictory to that. The psychological arrangement say that things must be arranged from known to unknown. If we are going from known to unknown, that is psychological. If we just consider from cell to organ, cell we have not seen. We seen only in our book or hardly in the laboratory. But what we are seeing much, organs. Well known is organ. So start with the organ, go to muscle bundle, then fibers, tissue, then cell. So known is hand, unknown is cell. So this is how the logical arrangement and psychological arrangement differ, but both are having implications. Both are having meaningful presence. The curricular expert must decide which is right, which is wrong. Then spiral arrangement, I have just scribbled with the pen available in the PowerPoint. Spiral arrangement is one in which this particular topic is just started. It is just kept on connectivity and it is just to move to the next level. Say for example, if I am just starting with capillary attraction in class 8, that capillary attraction in class 9 must have the same link. In class 10, the same link is there, but the subject's breadth is being increased. Concentric arrangement is one in which the content material is going to be arranged with live connectivity at the same time depth. So in spiral, we are just increasing the breadth, whereas in concentric arrangement, we are just increasing the breadth and depth. So these two are definitely having some relationship, and most of the curriculum experts now following only the concentric arrangement where the breadth as well as depth of the content is increased. Then horizontal and vertical arrangement, already we have discussed what is horizontal, what is vertical. So we must just make the curricular content organized either in a horizontal fashion or in a vertical fashion. At the same time, whether it is part to whole or whole to part arrangement, we all know induction and deduction. If we just start with the examples and go to rule, egg rule, that is called part to whole or inductive. Or if we just start with the role and describe things to test things, we call it as whole to part, that is deduction. So it is the wisdom of the curricular expert to decide which right method would be rightly adopted for this particular content to be organized. So as these things are just in mind, you must just keep what sort of question can be just dealt out of it. We've seen about curriculum design models, and we have to see something about curriculum evaluation model, which has been given in your NET syllabus, right? Curriculum evaluation models, widely it can be classified, right? Curriculum evaluation is essential because these elements must be tested. That is curricular objectives, curricular content, curricular method, and evaluation process all must be tested. Adopting the curriculum evaluation model. In this curriculum evaluation model, this is the flow chart we are having, which is in micro level and macro level. In micro level, this evaluation is carried out in subject mostly by the students and as well as by teachers. And their summary and conclusion and recommendation are taken out. This is in macro level. Each and everyone participating in the curricular process are giving their idea. Students who completed the course, students who got employed, and students who have been employed, their employers, subject experts, principals or head of the institutions, curriculum experts, and as well as the government machinery is taking part. They are giving some summary and conclusion which is taken into account, and at last the curriculum is going to be revised. So this is what the curriculum evaluation process in micro and macro level. So this particular chart would give some fair idea about this particular process without much of confusion, right? Then now let us move on to few important models. So one gentleman by name Wallachian had just divided this particular models into 4 groups. Those groups are elimination group, goal-free group, this CIPP group, and transaction group. So what all this specifically mean? So in this particular curriculum evaluations model may be of many times as per the suggestion given by various experts, Robert Stakes, Scriven, Stenhouse, Tyler, Sparklet, again Stakes improvised version, Eisner and Stufflebeam. Whatever I have given in red color are in your net syllabus. So let us have some basic idea about these models. Very simple difference between these models, thereby you can very well just manage with. So grievance goal-free model is one in which the curriculum is just evaluated with an evaluator, but the evaluator is not given any idea about the objectives of the curriculum. Without giving idea about the curriculum, the evaluator is advised to go through the elements present in the curriculum. He is having full freedom to know the outcomes as well as unanticipated outcomes. All he can just measure, and he can just measure the totality experience, and all that he can do as well as the evaluation of methodology can take place. But at last he will give a suggestion for improvement. So this particular model suggested by Scriven is known as goal-free model. What are all the objectives of the curriculum is not given to the evaluator. He is just understanding and making an expert analysis with which due analysis is made for improvement. This is Scriven's goal-free model, which is in your net syllabus. Then Taylor's model is always known as objectives model. As per Taylor's view, objectives are more important. So the curriculum expert is given the objectives and he must just analyze the outcomes. He must just rightly make a meaningful correlation between these two, and he could just suggest how these particular objectives can be better realized and percentage of realization of objectives. So this is called Taylor's model, an objective model of curriculum evaluation. Stufflebeam's CIPP model is always known as context, input, process, and product model. That is what the CIPP. Context deals with the curricular content. Then input in the sense the media which is related, and as well as the methodology that is adopted altogether, we call it as the next step process. Then comes the product. Product is the overall curricular development. And so this case, context, input, process, and product. The overall curriculum body, what we call it as product, the developed curriculum. The process, whatever the need that we have to correct in terms of delivery, the methodology, and as well as the input. Input apart from this particular curricular content, how better it can reach the learners. The input may be the what are all the instructional media, or in other terms it is known as support system. So altogether we call it as CIPP model. So these particular thing, what is the content, to what extent it is realized, what is the input, to what extent it is successful, what is the process, how far it is well, and how the product is totally had just achieved the objectives. This is called CIPP model, right? So these are all the basic model that we have covered, and as the time is fast approaching, I just run through a few models, and I have just given justice to the topic what I have taken. At least 2 subunits to the extent of 2.5 subunits I have covered. Few other areas are there which you can just learn on your own. Now I just leave it to your forum. If at all you would like to raise any questions, you may very well ask. And almost we have reached the time to the extent of 4:10 plus 4:15. Since we started some 10-15 minutes late, I justify the delay in time. Otherwise, I just respect all your time. I take this opportunity to once again to thank the organizers and giving me an opportunity to interact with people. It is always pleasure for me to interact with upcoming educationists who are just going to shape our nation. Now I just leave it to the forum. You can very well raise questions if at all you have.
நீங்க சத்தம் பண்ணுங்க விட்டுருங்க அதுதான் இது அவரை क्वेश्चन சார் கட் பண்ண சொல்லுங்க
Sir?
Yes, I'm line. Hello.
Okay. Dear participants, yes, sir.
I am very well online, madam.
Yes. Dear participants, if you have any queries, please ask sir now. I think this is the very great opportunity to discuss the topic with us, sir.
Yes, madam. Actually,
Yeah, yes, sir.
not only this unit, any unit for that matter,
Yeah.
even a single topic may need 3 hours for us if you have
Yes,
to
sir.
cover
Yes,
length
sir.
and breadth.
Yes,
So
sir.
this is a unit in which we are having 4 subunits. So I discussed with your principal. He just left the justice to me. So I felt that instead of just putting questions and answer them,
Yes, sir.
it would be
Yes,
better
sir. No
option
problem.
that some curricular content may be just given to them. Thereby they can just develop further on their own.
Okay, sir. No problem, sir. Really,
Fine,
it's a
ma'am.
very excellent one. Yeah, shall we conclude this, sir?
Fine, madam.
Yeah.
If there is no question, we can happily conclude.
Yeah, and that's why
I,
we are waiting for the participants if they have
fine.
any
Doesn't
questions.
matter. So they have ensured the first lunch session, I think, madam.
Okay.
First lunch session have made them very heavy. So they are not raising any question.
No problem, sir. If they have means, no problem. We can
Doesn't
ask it.
doesn't worry about, madam.
Okay, sir. Shall we conclude this, sir?
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
madam.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful session. Really, it is a very informative session. The way you explained the information on the topic curriculum studies is an excellent one, sir. Really, you are given a confidence to the participants how to face this NET exam. Really, it's a pleasure to have you, sir. Once again, thank you, sir, for your knowledgeable and wonderful session.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you.
Once again, I thank the Kasturi College of Education for all the arrangement and extension. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me.
Ma'am, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Ma'am, நேத்து 200 pay பண்ணோம் இல்லைங்க.
Yeah, wait,
அது
ma.
மாதிரி
Wait, the session is going. Please, you wait.
Okay.
Sir, feedback link க்கு போறோமா? இல்ல register mail க்கு போறீங்களா?
இதுலயும் போடுறேன் அதுலயும் போடுறேன்.
Okay. Dear participants, the feedback link for today's session will be sent you through your registered email and as well as in this webinar also.
feedback link வந்து அது என்டர் பண்ணுங்க. கேமரா ஆன் பண்ணி சொல்லுங்க. feedback link வந்து ஆன் பண்ணுங்க.
Okay, thank you participants. Feedback link இப்போ அதில் போட்டிருக்கோம் and it will be sent through your email also and as well as in the WhatsApp group also. Thank you one and all present. Tomorrow the session will start at 10 a.m. We will see you there. Thank you.